I'm outside a Marks and Spencer in South London. Both M&S and the Co-op have been in the news in recent weeks because they've both been hit by a massive cyber attack. It led to empty shelves and frozen deliveries. In short, it was chaos for the stores involved. Cyber attacks aren't new, but they are getting worse. So for this week's episode, I wanted to look back at the history of hacking, how we got to where we are today, and the danger that it presents. Welcome to History Counts. These hacks have real-life consequences, and what we've seen in recent weeks at M&S and at the Co-op is really just the tip of the iceberg. British Airways and Ticketmaster are just a couple of the other major companies that have been made victims of cyber attacks in recent years. It's all part of a relentless and increasingly sophisticated wave of attacks on companies and governments, and all too often they're invisible until much too late. It may be companies and governments who largely get targeted by these cyber criminals, but we all end up paying the price, whether it's lost taxpayers' money or as private individuals who find that our data has been stolen. To understand how we got here, as ever on this channel, we need to go back into the past. The first major attack on the internet was something called the Morris worm. It wasn't really intended to be destructive. It was kind of a prank, but it also made a serious point, which was that the internet was vulnerable and that was something that needed to be taken seriously. At the time, the World Wide Web didn't exist and only about 100,000 computers in the world were actually connected to the internet, most of them at universities, and the code of the Morris bug spread around them like wildfire. It caused infected computers at those universities to slow to a crawl and effectively stop working. It also gained huge international media attention, the first time that hacking had really done that. A year later, in 1989, the world saw the first ransomware cyber attack, where criminals encrypt or steal data and demand a ransom to give it back. It was carried out at a World Health Organization conference of all places, and it was done by criminals handing out thousands of floppy disks, which, when inserted into a computer, would infect them. Through the 90s and the 2000s, as we began to live more and more of our lives online, hackers increased rapidly in number and evolved massively in their sophistication. Banking, shopping, even health records all began to move online, and the stakes and the money involved for hackers began to grow. Over the last 15 years, the number of cyber attacks has frankly exploded, and there have been warning signs about the catastrophic impacts that a really major and advanced cyber attack could have. In 2017, the NHS was brought to its knees by WannaCry, a piece of ransomware that shut down computers at hospitals across the country. Surgeries ended up being cancelled, ambulances were rerouted. It ended up costing the taxpayer £100 million to fix. Just 2 years before that, 160,000 people's data was stolen in an attack on TalkTalk. Each time there's a major attack, we declare that it needs to be a wake-up call, but instead, we always just seem to hit the snooze button. Cybercrime becomes even more worrying and even more serious when we remember that not all of it comes from hackers sitting in their basements or in their bedrooms. Quite a lot of it is being started by, or at least sponsored by, state actors. One of the first big examples of that came in 2007, when Estonia, a highly digitized country, came under a wave of cyber attacks that shut down banks, newspapers, and government facilities. Many blamed Russian-linked hackers for that one. From there, things continued apace. To name just a couple of examples, in 2014, the film studio Sony Pictures was hacked by the North Koreans. In 2017, a massive attack was launched from a country believed to be Russia. It infected companies across the globe and cost them billions. But it's not just countries that we in the West would consider to be rogue states that are engaging in cyber warfare. Stuxnet in 2010 was speculated to be a joint US-Israeli cyber weapon that physically sabotaged nuclear centrifuges in Iran. Cyber warfare is now considered to be a vital part of national defence. A modern war then is more likely to start with empty supermarket shelves, frozen payrolls, and hospitals forced to turn away patients than bombs landing in streets. We're more connected than ever before, and that comes with huge benefits, but it also creates new and frankly quite massive vulnerabilities. The question then isn't if there will be more cyber attacks like the ones we've seen in recent weeks, but rather whether we'll be ready for them when they do come. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do subscribe and leave any feedback that you've got in the comments. Each week I try to make a video that looks at the history behind some of the stories that are in the news that week.